right. Welcome to the Bryce Eddy Show. Today we have a news episode with my BFF, Siaka Massaquoi. How are you, brother?
What's up, bud? Good to see you again. Those shoulders are getting bigger again. What's going on? You're hulking out? What's up?
Steroids, bro. No, I am working with a bodybuilding coach right now and having fun lifting heavy, dude.
Okay.
But I'm lifting like heavy on machines. And what this guy does with me in like a half-hour session,
Yeah.
like I cannot repeat the pumps I get working out with this guy on my own. There's just something about how he combines the exercises and how he moves and how much time he takes me to rest and all that stuff.
Okay.
I mean, he just crushes me.
Let me ask you about that, right? So you talk about rest, and when people like see bodybuilders and kind of like the known in the sports world is that like your cardio is going to be, down to nothing when you're gaining all this muscle. I know you do jiu-jitsu and all that stuff. Like, what have you seen like with your cardio now that you're adding so much more muscle?
So, in my like best VO2 max, which is like your ability to, kind of take in and go with oxygen. My best was when I was doing, CrossFit 5 times a week. And on the jiu-jitsu mats, I was lean, muscly, but not like, huge. But and that's probably the best shape I've ever been in terms of strength to weight ratio and just unstoppable. I mean, I could roll with every single one of my students. I never would refuse a match. I would just be like, yeah, let's go. I'd go for like aggressive, hard 5-6 minute rounds, zero rest.
Okay.
I can't do that now. And I'm feeling it. And the other day I taught up at a buddy's school, and I went for like 5 or 6 rounds, and one of the dudes that I went with was like a football player, big dude, and
very aggressive,
good,
very
energetic blue belt, solid blue belt, couple of stripes. So he had a good game on, plus he's really strong and like under 30. Okay. And so I'm an old man at this time, right? And but I go with him, and I go with him hard for 3 minutes of a 5-minute round, and I'm like, bro, I gotta call it because I'm gonna throw up. And he's like, okay, you deserved it, because I did tap him out 4 times in those 3 minutes.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
So I won, but I was for the first time in memory, I like laid there thinking, okay, I am going to throw up here. I didn't. But that's pretty rare for me. So my cardio, I mean, remember when you bulk up, your muscles take so much oxygen. Right. So in addition to, I'm not, doing that high ballistic, hair on fire, red line kind of CrossFit workouts, which, just do give you just the ability to suffer like no other. I'm not doing that right now. But I'm going to start mixing it in actually starting next week. There's a, new gym here in town, a new CrossFit place, and I got to get 1 or 2 days a week back in because it is good for my game. I like it. And the other day I was thinking, man, I gotta get going again.
You gotta make it up those stairs without wheezing.
Yeah. Well, I'm not quite that old, but I did the other day. It's interesting because, I'm doing this, with this bodybuilding coach, I'm doing these, like just really focused, like single muscle kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I went and we did a rare bench WOD at a CrossFit gym, and it was my one and only time I've done CrossFit in like the last 3 months. And I went in there and I put up, we were testing our max bench, and then we were doing a 5 rounds of pull-ups and bench press at 185 for for maximum number. And I put up 315 like it was nothing. And I haven't done a single bench press workout. It was all machines with this bodybuilding coach. But I put up 315 like I've never before. Normally I'd have to really warm up, get up there, and working at the bench press to have a heavy bench is a lot. But for 50 years old, man, I could not believe how I just like pulled it, boom, boom. I was like, oh geez, all right. And then I did 330. Also felt great. And then, I couldn't get past 330, but I did end up doing 30 reps of 185, which is,
a a lot.
Pretty phenomenal for one round. Just 30 straight is pretty gnarly.
So then are you feeling like not like you're also feeling the strength, but because you have such a heavy, I guess, front end of strength right now, like when you pick up a 315 and you get the first 5 or 6 in there, you kind of not really feeling the stress of it until you get to 6 or 7 because your muscle is just like that much stronger. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I'm
Like you
I'm I'm stronger, for sure, and I was surprised too. Like my pull-ups were really good. Like I'm a pull-up machine, but I
or
thought that I didn't think my strict pull-ups would be as good as they are because again, I'm not doing strict pull-ups. I'm doing
or
lat pull downs, and I'm doing a bunch of machines. So, but I feel good. I'm having fun,
wow.
basically, experimenting and doing a change up. And I think I'm going to do a masters bodybuilding competition this next year. Again, I'm working with one of the most outstanding IFBB pro trainers around. He just happens
Wow.
to live here in Boise. I'm one of like 3 clients that he takes in person. So, it's fun.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's the news, folks. That's the
There you go.
news.
There you go. That's it.
That was impromptu, but it was I think it was very informative to people
Yeah.
out there. And so if you want more, ask Bryce Eddy.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, speaking of news, I mean, we do have a
Yeah.
few things I want to get
Yeah.
through.
Yeah.
Number one, and it's the big news of the day, and we're going to post this quick. Is this shooter,
Mhm.
out of Minneapolis? Um, the uh, the news wants to desperately move us away from the mental health conditions that have been created by this gender confusion that
Mhm.
the left has foisted on us. And they are doing everything they can to try to make this guy, and all of these recent shooters have been of the vast majority of them. I mean, out of the last
Yeah.
10, probably 8 of them have been of the left leaning, extreme, trans or LGBTQ, deviant perversions, and they want it desperately to be a Republican,
Yeah. A
and so
white straight guy.
they're having to make that up. And the truth is, I mean, this kid was part of the anti-Semite, Trump hating,
Like free
religion
Gaza.
hating, hate God. It's the rejection of almost all
Yeah.
that we stand for, you and I, and almost all that conservatives stand for. He was directly rejecting it, and the information looks like, I mean, he's one of the gender bender, um, trans ideology, or at least he's sexually confused,
Right.
because you're seeing his picture. All of the stuff that's coming out tells us the truth. We have a mental health crisis, and it has been created by left-wing ideology.
Yep, and that's been infected in the schools, in the hospitals, like everywhere they turn, they're seeing this, and even like in Hollywood where we come from, it's like how many of these actors have also children who are flipped. It's like
Yeah.
the percentage of that is virtually impossible in such a small ecosystem,
Yeah,
right?
well, the bill has come due. The evil
Mhm.
ideologies that have been promoted, the bill is coming due. And so the New York Times and all these have to twist the coverage
Right.
in order to um, attempt to like persuade us that, oh no, those are the happy people, and it's the
It's you.
Republicans and the conservatives and the straight white males that are the evil actors.
Well, and then also the part of the twist is that they say if you and I would just get on board, then they wouldn't be where they're at. You're like, wait
Yeah.
a minute. I would say the same thing. If you just get over here, you'd be fine. But I wanted to share. There's a post that was put up. The Denver shooter trans, the Aldrine shooter trans, the Nashville shooter trans, the Georgia shooter trans, the Philadelphia shooter trans, the Iowa shooter gender fluid, the Uvalde shooter trans, the Colorado shooter trans, and the Minnesota shooter trans. That is 14, I believe, at that point. So, you know, actually, no, that's my bad. Not 14, that's 9. But yeah, no, it's it's a real thing, and it's I think something that came out. I saw a report of his manifesto saying like I wish I hadn't been brainwashed,
Mm.
right? So there's, I don't know what this is ultimately going to call for, but, and maybe let me ask you that, should it call for, because these doctors, these psychologists that have been in the schools, I mean, we've talked to Cole ourselves, and we've heard her story, over and over about how it's fast tracked,
Yeah,
and these kids are on the,
it's criminal.
it's criminal. So it's like, yes, this kid did this thing, and if he hadn't shot himself, he'd be held accountable. But instead of just destroying the ideology, I think we have to start looking at like how they're peddling this like conveyor belt of disaster. It's
Yeah.
really insane.
Yeah, and shout out to the people that are exposing it. I mean, you and I have obviously. I was given so much hate for early on saying that this is wrong and evil, and we're seeing it now that these people who have been pushing this they are criminal actors, and they
Yes.
have destroyed the
Yeah.
health of these kids, and they've lied. And Billboard Chris highlights this all the time, and God bless him for it. How quickly you can get a letter to essentially say that you've gone through the whole process, and
Mhm.
and yes, you have the approval to go and get puberty blockers and
Right.
surgeries and things like that. They lie to us and they say, oh no, it's gone through this really careful process. But yeah, I mean, they set up booths at fairs and just go, hey, come get your letter here.
You know,
I mean, it's like the medical marijuana thing where you could just go in and in 2 seconds, oh, I
yeah,
have a
you're like
little,
my back. You're like my back.
and my shoulder hurts, and then oh yeah, here you go, we'll just give it to you. And
And,
it's become that same kind of process, and it's wicked.
but it's wicked because like part of me, like everything is like can be seen as being ripped apart by the devil. He wants to do this.
Sure.
The speed in which they have moved on this ideology, do you believe that they move so much faster because of how much more destructive it is than, like you said, let's just say the medical marijuana or anything else that they come up? I feel like the speed of this thing has been something we haven't seen, this in COVID, or such a, you must get on board like yesterday, and
Yeah.
everyone's trying to go like, wait, what does that mean? Who's they, them? Like you're just trying to like get a bead on what's going on, but they like kind of pushed it pretty. And all of a sudden now you see some guy in a dress reading it, to 2-year-olds, and you're like,
Yeah.
about this over here.
It's destabilizing. And if you look at the theme of it's here to destroy the family, right? It's here to
Right.
destroy. It's a satanic attempt to push back against God's image, right? We're created in God's image, so what they're doing is attempting to pervert and destroy that. It is a demonic, satanic attempt. We're seeing it as that massively destabilizing force, but it's also there's sort of a confluence of motivations, right?
Mhm.
There's people that are aligned because they are aligned on common interests, and it might be okay destabilizing, but it's also financial. They're creating kind of a permanent class of medical subscriptions, right? These
Mm.
people are signing on to being lifelong patients.
Right.
And remember early on in this phenomenon, we played some of these tapes back in the day of the um medical investor conferences where
Right.
they had little breakout sessions talking about how this is a $1 billion industry, and gender affirming care, this is what we need to do for these people for their mental health, which we know that their suicide rates increase,
Right.
beyond the
After.
little narrow honeymoon period where they're like, yay, I'm a new person. Look
Right.
at me. I get to buy dresses now. Right beyond that period of time, when they realize that they're still them, and now they're miserable and they're non-sexually functioning, and
Right.
they've destroyed themselves permanently, and they're unable to actually detransition without horrible scars or medical issues for the rest of their life too. I mean, it's too late to do a U-turn.
Mhm.
And and my heart goes out for people like a Chloe Cole, who we know, who we've interviewed, who has permanently altered her body,
Right.
and may not be able to really live in the way that she would have liked to. She
Right.
was sold a bill of goods, and it is sad to see that happen.
I mean, I think, I guess then the other question would be if there's going to be any type of not just restitution, but like justice for these people. When you start to look down the line of this stuff, it would probably have to come from the federal government, right? Because the
Yeah,
states like California and what they've California, Minnesota, just what they've passed there to allow to exist to be
yeah.
these butcher shops for children has
Well, I
been
mean, the insurance carriers that approve this stuff, the doctors that do these things, the companies that are behind all this should be sued into oblivion if we
Mm,
had real justice. I mean, it's there should be criminal
right,
action brought against these purveyors of this evil ideology. I mean,
right, right, right.
there's no stronger way I can say it, but other than some of these people, I mean,
Mhm,
violence should be visited upon them by our state government, right?
mhm,
And by that I mean they should be punished. They should
right,
be punished. Again, not by us as citizens. As citizens, we should be shaming them, and we should be calling out the evil. But they should have uh, due penalty under the law.
right. Wow. Whew, man, this stuff's crazy. I hope and we continue to pray that we're seeing the U-turn. I think with
Yeah,
the speed of how we're seeing a lot of this happen, we're
yeah.
also seeing the speed, myself included, and my wife Charlotte, like so many more people coming together
Yeah,
for
there's a vibe shift. I had a
yeah,
professor on recently that was talking about it, and he's calling it the vibe shift. And
yeah,
and he's seeing it in his classrooms. He's seeing it
mm,
turn around, and I think it's beautiful. But again, the people who have promoted this ideology are responsible for the deaths of these
yeah.
children. They are responsible for the death at the hands of this shooter. They are responsible for the lies that they've told, and I mean it is a wicked,
Well,
evil brutality, and it's not the guns, people.
you're right. It's the crazies, and the other side too that just baffles me. Charlie Kirk said this really well. He goes, "We'll protect our money with armed guards, but not our children." And
Yeah,
one of the things I loved about Godspeak, and I love about the church I go to now, is that they have armed guards there, and it's to me, it tells me, okay, we're not sitting here thinking that it could happen. It just allows those our families to run around and not even have to question now because we got the sheriff's department working around the area. So I'm at the place now. I think it's Christians, especially. We're hearing all this stuff around the world. It's like, you know, defend yourself, defend your space at least. Don't go out looking for trouble, but like, those are your kids. Like, stand guard, on your family. And I don't know. It's just when you keep hearing these things, especially attack on Christians, and they're kind of depending on where you are in the country, they're unarmed, and it just seems like literal lambs to the slaughter. It's we got. I think we gotta. I would like to see us protect ourselves a little better.
yeah.
You know,
Amen, amen. Well, I'm a big proponent of that, and a big proponent of having good, strong security and increased police presence in these areas. Speaking of which, let's talk about what's going on in DC and soon
that was
Chicago.
good. That was good. Nice, nice.
Yeah, so I mean, I know people are following this, but
Yeah,
Trump essentially federalized, as it should have been, federalized DC. That was what it was intended by the
right.
founding fathers anyway. It's not really its own city, and it shouldn't be. But he kind of um, established order, and all
Yeah,
of a sudden, there's not been a single murder since they took over.
it's been
Um,
2 weeks now,
yeah,
almost.
yeah, it's been a couple of weeks, and he put in the National Guard, and he, took over the police force there, and really enabled them to do their job.
Yep.
There's been such a temperature around the country, especially in blue cities, that has been anti-law enforcement and pro-criminal. And again, they have established chaos and allowed chaos to reign supreme because they want to destabilize us.
Right. Right.
Well, Trump has done this, and everybody who's there is appreciating the presence. The news is not, and the liberals are not, because they do not want to see crime go away. They do not want to see good police action, and the enforcement, especially. I mean, what they were having was like young juvenile gangs running
Yeah.
around and
Yeah.
assaulting people. We had a friend here locally that was traveling, and those bike crews that are doing the wheelies and playing
Yeah.
that,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
ran into him and hit him in the back of the head, and he had
Whoa.
stitches. And I mean, it's a terrible thing. And of course, they hit and run away and that kind of thing. And those kids should be
Wow.
beaten. They should be beaten. I mean, they
It's
should
like,
be whipped with
y-
rattan canes.
you know,
Um,
you know what it's like right now. It's like they recreated the late '70s, early '80s, like teenage gangs. They allow.
yeah,
You remember like the
yeah,
Warriors?
yeah.
They've allowed that to come back. You're
Except
like,
for
wait,
those
come on,
gangs
guys.
fought each other. They,
True.
what's interesting is they fought for their turf, and they fought for, their little criminal enterprises. But what we have is just incorrigible youths running
Yeah.
around and harassing citizens. And literally, I mean, they should be punished physically, and they should be punished severely. And things need to be brought to order. So, well, Trump did it. And we're seeing the effect of that, and they're prosecuting those kids, and they're
Right.
and
Right.
they're
Right.
they're snatching them up, they're trying them as adults, and that's how it should be. And then, of course, the news seeing that, well, they need to call Trump a tyrant, and he's literal Hitler because he's doing this.
Don't forget,
um
don't
yeah.
forget racist, because black and brown people.
Well, yeah, I mean, look,
Yeah.
it's the racist criminals.
Yeah.
Who cares what the color is? Let's just not have criminals reigning our and controlling our streets.
See, but and we're seeing, it's so fascinating to me to watch this, so much mask off moments for these Democrats right now. And we're seeing it was just recently on the Abby Phillips show, this Malika Williams, I think her name is, and she's talking about how Stephen Miller is a white supremacist, and that these policies makes black and brown people fearful. And it's like, growing up in Chicago, hearing all of the stories, and my family members, a lot of them live right outside of Baltimore. There's a sense of, you don't go in certain areas because of, you don't like, just the fact that exists alone, that is a problem.
Yeah.
So when you hear them screaming like, oh, they don't feel safe in this, it's like, well, there's blocks that we have grown up around that you just don't go, because they may rob you. That's
Well,
just
if
the
you
way
talk
it is.
to good black and brown
Yeah.
citizens, right, and business owners in those areas, they are terrified of what's gone on. They're unhappy, and they would like to see increased police presence. It's the people that have been brainwashed by our government that the cops are bad. It's the people that have been brainwashed by our liberal media that the cops are bad. Those are the folks that are complaining and pushing back. But a lot of it's just it's absolute horse crap. They want to have law and order too.
But then this takes us over to, because this is my only concern about the Chicago thing. While I agree in
Yeah, well, let's
spirit,
hit what's happening. So
yeah,
Trump is saying that he's going to put National Guard there to enforce, some of the border, requirements, crack down on crime. I mean, Chicago for what, 13 plus years has been the
oh yeah,
most
longer,
murders of any U.S. city. And now
yeah,
there's places that are really nice. You can
yeah.
go in Chicago, but there's areas in which you cannot go if you don't want to be murdered.
Right. Yeah, and that's so that's the side, right? Like, when he starts to go, I'm going to these other cities, I think, and I said this to Charlotte, it has to be something that makes sense constitutionally, because I said this a long time ago. It can be turned up, crime can be turned up so much, they can weaken the police so much that people will be screaming for the federal government to save them. And then that puts us
Yeah.
in a, I guess, a 9/11 2.0
Yeah.
situation.
I understand that fear.
Right. And so I think that I do like, hey, we're going in there for immigration reasons, and Trump has shown what type of leader he can be when he does these types of things. So I trust, until given a reason not to. I hope, I think that when they take away the crime statistics, and they usually come around every year and says that 3, 4, 5% drop from the year before, and DC went from a 5% from the year before to an 87% drop in murders. It's like when you see these things, and Trump said this early on after he got inaugurated, he goes, "I'm about to do something that will destroy liberal cities." And between the taking away the illegals, the verified that you're a citizen to vote, cracking down on the crime in these areas, that a lot of these people run these areas like they're little daimyos, like
Mhm.
they are the shogunates, that they run these 2 blocks and everyone answers to these one guys. It's not like half a gang or one gang versus another gang anymore. It's these little pockets. Is
Yeah.
that my homie is a Chicago PD, and we actually wrestled together back in high school. And he tells me these things. It's like an open drug market in the West Side, where each block has its own drug that you can just go and pick up, like it's a pharmacy. The South Side is where they can't really break the violence, because it's not one organization versus another. It's these little pockets of people, 2, 3, 4 kids that go out and commit something, and then they come back. So that's some of the issues that they're facing. They can't really get a hold of it. And he's mentioned that don't really have support from the administration, being
Yeah.
told to stand down and stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah, and it's interesting because there's this narrative that goes on with two things. They will ascribe. They'll say, "Well, 12 of the most dangerous high murder states have Republican governors." Right now,
Right.
what they fail to mention is all of them have mayors and city council and all that stuff that are Democrats, right?
Right.
And so it's these blue cities within these red states, and they want to play that game and try to confuse people. Oh, it's not a Democrat leadership issue; it's a Republican
Right.
governor issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, no, no. There's this thing called mayors, and the mayors are what have allowed that to proliferate. The mayors are who are in charge of the police forces,
Exactly.
right? The sheriffs are part of the county, but the city police answer directly to the mayor and the city council, and can be fired at will if they are
Right.
doing good policing and they don't want it. If they think they're locking up too many black and brown folks, they'll change out to the next guy who's gonna want to keep his pension.
Well, and again, a mask off moment. Brandon Johnson recently on Morning Joe was asked, like he did the whole spiel about resources and this, that, and the other, and it really tells you how sick these people are, because he said, "Okay," Joe's like, "Okay, if you had all that stuff, would you also consider bringing on an extra 3,000 if you could do that?" And this guy wouldn't even just say yes. He's like, "No, it's a resource. It's resource." And you're like, "Yo, it's really." It's unbelievable. I said to Charlotte how evil, and how these people can just live openly in their lives so comfortably.
Yeah,
So
well,
it's
some of
really
it
fascinating.
they're committed to a religious ideology. Secular humanism, is a religious ideology, and they are
Right.
so committed to it, and they're
Right.
so committed to their bad policies, right? Because it's just their outlook. It is their paradigm, their way of looking at the world, their philosophy that does not work, and so they're committed to it as if it is a cult, and there is no there's no alternative to them. So
Right.
they're going to lie, like any cult member would, and say, "Oh no, everything's great, everything's fine. What we
Mhm.
need is more resources. What we need is to make the communities feel better."
Yeah.
We can't lock up the bad criminals, because it's not their fault that they're criminals. They're poor. We need to give them stuff and they won't commit crime, which has never worked in any place
The
in the
history of the
universe.
world. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think there has to be, because I don't know. I guess the best way is, like, I don't know how many people are maliciously evil that way, but I feel like there are a lot of people who could fall for the evil trappings of money. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like the trappings of money will cause you to turn
And
a blind
power.
eye. and money and power.
Yeah.
Like to go, I want to do this to a group of people. I don't know how many people are like that. I think there's a smaller percentage, but ones that go, hey, if you press this button, not that button, you're going to get an extra 50 grand in your check this month. It's like, and then you can hear the stuff that's happening, but you're like, well, I do get an extra 50 grand. I
Yeah.
think there is a financial incentive that's been going on that I believe could blow a lot of this wide open because crime pays.
Yeah.
You have people, the community's distracted. That means you can kind of move things around while the community's scared for their life,
Yep,
right?
yep,
They don't
yeah,
pay
no,
attention
and
to
you
you.
could accumulate more power under the
Yeah,
guise that we're fixing this. People look to you, oh, help us with this. Well, all right, we
right.
need more taxes. And we're going to do a bond measure that's going to, and that's the game
Yeah,
that they all play.
to address
Yeah, yeah,
the founding things.
but a lot of it is just straight incompetence.
Mm.
It's very rare that you have competent leaders in politics because competent leaders tend to go into, businesses where they're going to make money and they're going to be able to affect change. Politics is a, disgusting Game of Thrones that involves just really the accumulation of power. And so bad policies don't prevent you from accumulating power. In fact,
Right, right,
sometimes
right.
it actually gives you more power. And so that's where that's where there's an issue. There's one other thing though that I want to address that they're
Uh,
playing a game on right now is they'll take all of the states and all of these red states, which tend to have more rural economies and just a different political makeup, and they'll take them and they'll say, well, if it weren't for the blue states, the red states couldn't exist, kind of a
oh, the
thing. The blue
taxes.
states, yeah, and they'll pretend that it's that blue states somehow are devoid of conservatives instead of pretty closely a 50-50
Yeah.
alignment everywhere. In all
Right,
these
right, right.
blue states, you have conservatives that are contributing to the economy. And I'll bet if we actually looked it up in these blue states, there are probably more contributing conservatives per
Yeah,
capita,
yeah.
right? That are contributing to the economic wealth and engine of these blue states. They just
Yeah.
happen to be run by idiots. They happen
You
to
happen to be in
be
LA. Yeah.
right, right.
Yeah.
But I mean, in LA, I mean, everybody I talk to in business that I come across is quite conservative.
Right, 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 right.
Not everybody's Hollywood.
Yeah. No, I mean that I think that's a great point that you say that you made right there. And I saw apparently uh, Congressman Gallagher from California has proposed seceding from the liberal side of California. And while I believe that had never happened because they just can't decouple. That's just one of those things where there would be so many roadblocks because both the House and Senate have to agree to that. I think it should be easier for these areas to go, you know what? Thanks for playing, but we'll go play on our own ideas over here. I think there should be maybe a 2-year process to wait. And like if you're filing to move from Washington to Idaho and you're just like, hey guys, we got a 2-year process. If you can get 2/3 of your population in your city to go, we're moving over,
Mhm.
then we're going to sign you up. Like I don't think it should then be in the hands of the legislators that it's gerrymandered to be predominantly blue to say if you can leave. They're never going to let the hostages out, man. They're never going to let them out. It's kind of weird to me, but I think that those movements, that idea, people seeing that stuff, there's something that does to the average person. Because like you said, we have incompetent leaders, and it just has me thinking, about the Book of Kings and how it just points out that it's on us though, right?
Yeah.
It's on the
No, that's
people.
exactly right.
So the people are being incompetent and need to, not everybody, but
Yeah.
a majority enough that we have leadership that's incompetent and not
True.
holding these
And
people
and it and
accountable.
it means, yeah, we need to put good people and, good people need to run and all that. I had that discussion this morning with a guy on his show, called the Manifesto. And his position was, more that traditional Christians should not be involved in politics. But I think I made some headway with him because what we
Really?
do need to do is we need to have people who are politically active and the church and Christians should be, and of course we've talked about that on this show a lot. We should be involved in how we organize ourselves. Otherwise, we will have nothing but evil, incompetent leaders.
But that statement itself is in this context is oxymoronic, because if the country is established by Christians, how do you not have Christians in politics?
Yeah, well, I'll post that show on my channel,
Yeah,
because
I
he asked
might.
me that question, and we went through my answers on a lot of those, and I think it's a complex thing, but I do believe that we are called to participate, and we were a Christian nation, and we had he and I a little bit of a argument on that, but I think it was definitely worth worth listening to. So I'll
Please,
put it.
please post that. I got to check that out.
Yeah, yeah,
Again, I think about why is Christianity true, and it's the pushback that you see, the way people push back in these other places, and even here, like it can't ever be that. As if you knew the truth of the Bible, if it was that, everyone would be chilling right now. Everyone
right.
would be the idea of the California kind of lifestyle that they want, where everyone can feel nice and comfortable and wave at your neighbors, and like
Yeah.
that's what it would really be. Yeah, you'll have people off, but that's when you had to know the word to kind of circumvent that. But it's not bad. It's not gonna.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not gonna. I guess anyway. We'll get into theology later. I was
Yeah,
just like,
yeah. But anyway, hey, people, check California. It
yeah,
is a blue state, but look at what that map looks like and who
yeah.
voted for Trump, and look at what what it really looks like. But in every single one of these states that is a blue state, you have a tremendous economic engine that is promoted by conservatives and liberals alike. And the far left, they don't really contribute much to anything.
Well, they do help to open infrastructure projects after they riot. So
Yeah.
we're like, all right, we got that taken care of. Let's
Yeah,
set
they
up a
do
whole
knock
new.
things down.
They
They
do,
destroy. They destroy.
and you get them for cheap.
Yeah. Hey, the last two things that I want to hit quickly
Yeah.
is Gavin Newsom, has
Oh,
had a recent off the mask moment. That dude is perpetually running for president. He thinks he's the heir apparent to the throne. There's no better politician out there in terms of just the ability to nakedly lie without sweating, without
unabashedly.
shaking,
Yeah,
without any. I mean, there's no more
clean,
talented
just
snake on the
down
planet.
down the line.
Yeah, and he's got nice hair, and he's a handsome guy, and
The jawline.
unfortunately people are so style over substance. But that dude is a evil lizard person.
Yes. Great lead in on that point there, Bryce.
Yeah, but talk about the mask slipping, because it's pretty good.
Well, so this guy was being interviewed by Politico, right? And to say his angry, okay, his angry guy face, his serious, like I'm a tough guy face, looked like a fake female liberal angry face. Like it was really funny. Like everyone, please go watch it. I think you'll just get a good laugh.
Oh,
And
I'm
he's
gonna
like,
have to check it out.
and he's over talking to guy, and he goes, maybe we're gonna have to do our own website and our own coin. It's like, so by the way, if you go to patriot.com, whatever his site is, and like he couldn't get Patriot out without like cringing. It's beautiful to
Oh, I'll have
watch,
to check it out.
and it's not working. People, we see the voters out there. I think is 64% are against this new redistricting move that he's
Yeah,
trying
yeah,
to do.
and he's trying to play Trump's game, and
Yeah.
he doesn't
Oh,
have. I mean, Trump is a unique political talent himself, and Gavin Newsom's better off being himself, because he is a talented
but
politician.
who is
But
he?
well, I mean, he's just look, that guy. You have noticed him kind of move to this fake middle, right?
Right,
He
right.
he did it, starting with that Charlie Kirk interview that he did on his podcast. You're seeing him all of a sudden. No, I'm the reasonable one, and pushing back on the left wing a little bit. All he's doing is working out how he's going to accumulate power. The guys like that do not have any other value other than accumulating power, and he would be a conservative in his words if he could just to accumulate power. That guy has no other motivation. He has no other guiding principles than the just pure lust for power.
You know, I 100% believe that. And he comes off, because I don't know who his handlers are, but he comes off about like how they make movies nowadays, blockbusters, by committee, where
Mm-hmm.
everyone's like, oh, well, you got to be middle ground. Well, you got to push back on this thing. But oh no, don't forget that your base is crazy leftist. Well, you got to come. And so I kind of believe if he really comes out to run, which everyone says he will, he may be embarrassed so much because all the sides will remember his hypocrisy that's been. I mean, we've lived in California, so we've seen it firsthand. But I
Oh
think
yeah.
the world is now seeing it at such a special level, because that Charlie Kirk interview, I know there was a lot of people on the right that weren't happy that Charlie went on the show. I think that was a good idea. Like the
I do
more
too.
we can get over there,
Yeah.
but there were a lot of angry people on the left that Gavin did that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they're going to buy
Oh no,
into him being
I mean,
angry now.
he burned. Yeah, he burned himself with like the far trans folks and a
Right,
bunch of the
right,
far
right,
left.
right.
He burned himself,
Yeah,
and they were hating on him in a solid way for a few weeks after that, and that will
right.
repeat itself over and over again because they need those left wing activists. That is a big part of their base, and so him playing the reasonable thing, he might lose. He might lose, everybody on his base on that side, and then only gain maybe a fraction of the undecideds.
Well, I think that's the problem. I don't think they need that crazy left wing side. I think they could let go of it. I think they're too afraid of it, because that crazy left wing side isn't a huge voting block, because that's all it comes down to. It comes down to vote, and we still kind of have this close to center
Yeah,
left culture.
but they animate the voter. And so,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
remember, I mean, it
That's
was
true.
the far lefties that created the, George Floyd stuff and the BLM stuff and everything. And
Yeah.
that drove people to, with energy to vote. And it was like, well, I'm not racist, so, and this guy's not racist, so I got to be a part of this. But it was
Don't destroy my business. Vote for
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, but it was animated by those agitators that
yeah,
kinda
yeah, yeah.
created that. So if they can capture that same lightning in a bottle, where
Mm.
they capture the activism, where everybody's like, "Yeah, those kids, that wanna be trans, they just wanna exist," and
Right,
the
right.
right wing wants to destroy them. If they can recapture that, energy,
Mm.
the polarizing stuff.
Right.
But you're right. If you're just looking at that little voting block, yeah, they're not going to tip him over, but they could potentially create that energy that spills over, into some kind of momentum.
Yeah, that makes sense. Huh. That's a good way of putting it. I never saw it in that way, because I always kind of believed, and it kind of naively so, because I lived through 2020, right? I always kind of
Yeah.
believed that people truly keep their votes to themselves. And even in the face of that stuff, when behind the booth, they go, but the influence, right, of just
Yeah, well, the
the area.
liberals, remember, okay, so if you have far left, you have the liberals, you have
Mhm.
more of the middle, undecideds, and then, the whole kind of right wing folks. The liberals get swayed by well, I'm a liberal, so yeah, I do believe that you should be able to do whatever you want to do with your
Right, right,
body.
right,
And
right.
and yes, you should be able to women's right to choose and things like that. But a lot of that energy is driven by the crazies that have pulled them more towards the left, and away from that undecided center. So,
Well,
it's going to be interesting, but I think we're going to do well running against him, because he ultimately, is just a, take every side,
right,
kind of guy, and he ran California,
into the ground.
disastrously.
Yeah, into the fire, literally, and then now selling it off to investors, to
Yeah.
building investors. I wanted to point out one little thing. You saying they're pulling them over. Did you hear about the memo that went out to like DNC groups about words to not say anymore? I remember we did that. Remember we did that one reading of Stanford's words. We did that like we
Yeah,
did that
yeah,
a
yeah,
couple
yeah, yeah.
years ago. Yeah.
You remember their
Yeah.
terms and all the things that you can say and
Yeah,
can't
you
say
can't
now.
say so. I believe we have to next episode. We have to come back and do the words that now they don't want them to say on the left anymore in order to attract men back. It is glorious, Bryce. We gotta do the word challenge, and I'm happy it's come full circle. So
I love it. I love it. That's
yeah.
good. Well, hey, how do we follow you? How can we bless you, brother? Please do that before we end up here.
Awesome, guys. So check me out over on X at Siaka_Massaquoi. And you can find me on Instagram at _Siaka Massaquoi. And check out coming out in November is a Christmas movie that I'm in called The Best Thing About Christmas. It is a musical, so it's going to be some awesome music going on there. We do have second season of California's Move to Texas is coming. Also, a beautiful Christian music video is coming out soon. Be on the lookout for that. It's going to be some fun content that is coming out on our side. So please be aware.
Awesome. Well, I love you, brother. Thanks for coming on.
Love
Thanks
you
for doing
too,
this
bro.
episode with me. To God be the glory, and we are out. Hey, thank you for watching or listening to this show. If you are someone who listens to us on the podcast apps, please go to our Rumble channel. Even if you're not going to watch us there, we'd appreciate you hitting subscribe. We want to boost those numbers up and make sure that that channel continues to grow. But again, thank you so much for listening to us.